This used to be the headquarters of the Southern Reach. Before the Shimmer swallowed it.
Seems like a good place to spend the night.
Yeah.
More mutations. They're everywhere.
Saw some on the boat, right?
Malignant. Like tumors.
Romantic, isn't it?
In the putting together of this ensemble, these 5 people moving through this strange landscape, one of the things we had to be sure of was that you don't somehow consciously or unconsciously end up sort of with 5 people who are the same. Specifically, they needed to have different energies. All of them actually, they bring in a very, very particular energy which is idiosyncratic to them.
I'm from Johns Hopkins, biologist.
Oh, there you go.
Ha, biologist?
Told you she was smart.
What?
Because the characters didn't have names in the book, they didn't have genders to begin with, but I had the sense of them as being women, and you kind of sleep on that idea, and then you see if you actually have characters that evolve. And so the very next day, the second day I was writing it, I had been trying to assign names, which was failing. It just wasn't working for me to envision them, their characters. And then also trying to see whether they were men or women. And every time I tried to use a male name, it wasn't working. And then the second day, I had the backstories for all of them, and they were all women. And then the conscious part of that is that so many times you see in movies and in books where you have all men on some kind of expedition like this, and you have one token woman. And so I did consciously think about that too, about the gender roles.
All women.
Scientists.
The previous teams have been largely military, so.
It's incredible to get to be with 5 women on a film and completely rare, unfortunately. And it's great. It's such a different environment when you're not the only one. That's the usual thing, is you're the girl in the movie, you know? And it's nice not to feel like that. It's nice to feel that you're a character reacting to other characters, not that you're a representative for your entire gender in a film.
The first person cast in the film was Lena, Natalie Portman, and I think it was a conversation like you always have, and it was a list of 1. She was very keen on the script and was keen to meet Alex, and they met a couple of times, and she agreed to do it. It was very as you dream it would be.
I met Alex Garland about this film, it was like a year and a half ago, I think, and he was telling me about the story, and then I got to read the script, and it just seemed so wild to me to get to make this sort of science fiction action film, but just that had a real psychological basis, you know, about all of our sort of self-destructive tendencies.
Oh, that's nice of you. Why aren't you here?
I think she's so incredible. She's such an incredible actor and very giving and just so warm. I've had a great time with her, and I'm bummed that there's not more, you know, because I would leave those scenes and I would just feel like just some real work was being done. She's really fantastic.
She created a character that had an enormous amount of control in themselves, in their behavior, in their actions, but at the same time, in very subtle ways, would convey huge internal damage and brokenness. And it was the coexistence of that control and order and structure, and between the gaps, the brokenness, that at times could suddenly flare out and then recede. And Natalie was just supernaturally gifted at constructing that character.
And Natalie can sort of do anything, and it's one of the few, I think that our editor has said it's one of the few times that there's not a take with Natalie Portman in that he couldn't use on anything she does. Literally, when she is a subtle thing, but the minute she's in front of the camera, she just inhabits Lena, and it's fantastic.
For those that follow, I believe that means us.
Well, we spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to do Ventress, and there were lots of different discussions. But again, I think the casting people said, you know, if you want the best American actress, get Jennifer. And she brings something, you know, original to the part.
It's just a really great group of women. I mean, he cast it really well. Not only that are the women incredibly, you know, talented and committed and there and excited to be a part of it, but also just really such a lovely group to be a part of and hang out with and chat with, which is good because the scenes can be, you know, it's tough. I mean, just basically being in sort of, I mean, we're in London, I mean, we're in Britain, but we're sort of shooting in forests and sometimes into mud up to our knees and slogging with with machine guns and backpacks, and it can be, and we're doing what they call standing lunch, which means we don't actually break, you know, it's like, oh, you have 10 minutes, you should eat now, kind of thing, so eating very quickly, but it really was a fun experience. You must feel as if you're in a dream.
Am I?
The performances are not prescribed by me, they're really defined by the actors. So in some ways, it was hardest to anticipate what Jennifer would turn up with, because she's done so much in so many different kinds of ways. And she herself, just as an individual, as a human, is really an original. I think I've never met anyone like her. And what it felt like was the most perfect fit for the film. I felt like on some deep level, she tonally got the film and sort of channeled it and manifested it. That's the way it felt to me.
Okay, ladies, this is getting a little heavy. It's interesting because it wasn't the obvious choice, I think, from reading it. So it gave me an opportunity to delve into something different. Definitely very different from what I play usually on screen right now. So not a virgin anymore.
I think the thing about Gina, I'd seen her do stuff and then met her. And one of the things I noticed immediately was that the character on screen was not her. And the character on screen that I'd seen was very kind of holistic, quite a complete character, very complete character, and still was not her. And that tells you a lot about an actor. It tells you that what you're seeing is genuinely a performance. They're not just, some actors are in a way, what they really are is very, very unself-conscious and able to be themselves in front of a camera and not have their sort of psychological structure and behaviors suddenly dismantled out of self-awareness. Gina was really creating a complete character, and I found that very, very striking and really kind of interesting.
Damn.
The hard bit is getting all these actors because they're so busy, there's so much work going on. So we had this moment, I remember, with Tessa when she was doing Westworld. It was all, you know, when are they ever going to finish? They were rewriting, they were doing this. It's getting them here, and then she has the opportunity to be in Thor, a new character. I'm not a Marvel expert, but it was a really big deal. So then she had to leave here, you know, make sure she could leave here. So it's getting everybody into the slot.
I thought the radio waves were blocked by the shimmer, and that's why no one inside could communicate with base or GPS. But look up. See the clouds? And the sky? The light waves aren't blocked, they're refracted. After I saw Ex Machina, I was like, God, I want to make a science fiction film. I want to make something that is steeped in the imagination, that defies our ideas about reality, and I want to play in that space. So in that way, it started with Ex Machina, but I didn't know that it would happen so soon after I got sent the script and read it and had the chance to meet Alex and talk with him about what Ex Machina meant to him and also what Annihilation could mean to an audience, and then I wanted to do it so badly. It's the same with the radios. The signals aren't gone, they're scrambled.
I think she's literally brave. The first time we met each other, she asked me some very fair but very confrontational questions about the film I'd just worked on, which notionally, within the context of meeting a director about a gig, is not sort of what actors would normally do. I thought it was a fantastic thing to do, and I thought the questions were brilliant, and the way she put the questions were brilliant. And that kind of intellectual courage also felt to me like a perfect mesh with that character who, in their way, is sort of the most courageous in the way they deal with what they encounter by continuing to think the implications through and then actually follow through on those implications.
Volunteering for this, it's not exactly something you do if your life is in perfect harmony.
Alex was not mentioning action or thriller or sci-fi. He was mentioning psychology, he was mentioning biology. And that's what fascinated me then reading the script, that, you know, a story that's in a way simple and linear could be so faceted with and so nuanced with so many layers of different sciences and psychology. And I think it's a beautiful mix of all those aspects adding up to an exploration of one's inner self in terms of annihilation, you know.
Tuva is just a hyper truthful actor. I just believe in what she does. And when sometimes she would break off or say, I don't like that take or whatever, it was because she didn't believe in the honesty of her performance at that moment. She's immensely gifted in that respect.
Tuva was the last person we cast. After we cast Natalie, we cast Oscar, Isaac Kane. That was tricky because we wanted Oscar Isaac, but he was doing this other little movie called Star Wars, and it didn't look like the dates would ever work. And one of the great things about shooting here at Pinewood has allowed us to have Oscar.
If for no other reason then, as you know, being sat here in Pinewood, is that the only other film being shot in Pinewood at the moment is Star Wars.
Which I have to say Star Wars were incredibly helpful about. Ryan and Ram, the director, producer, respectively, just the production, it could not have been more helpful, and really, because we're a small film and they didn't have to help us out, and they did.
So literally sometimes just walking back and forth, and at first I thought I wasn't gonna be able to handle it, just being too tired, and how was I gonna give the right kind of energy to this thing, but I really wanted to work with Alex. I want to do every movie that he makes. So luckily between the people at Star Wars and the people on Annihilation, they were able to work out the schedule so I could get it done. But I found that instead of it tiring me, it was completely invigorating because it was so different. There was a freedom and almost a kind of performance art aspect to it that I didn't realize I was thirsting for.
Oscar, you know, is the proper chameleon, and when he's on our set, he's just incredibly committed. He enjoys strolling on sometimes in full Star Wars uniform, really annoying them, and just hanging out with us. But he's terrific, and the fact it worked was amazing.
He does something which, from my point of view, is incredible to watch. He'll just be talking as Oscar, and he'll say, well, yeah, it's interesting, because you could do the film like this, and then he'll do a reading of the line, and it will be a very complete, total performance, nuanced and whole. And then he'll say, oh, the other way, back as Oscar, you could do it like this, and then another totally different reading with a whole other set of really delicately dropped-in colours and nuances and stuff like that. And it's pretty extraordinary. So if you want to know how he can move from a Star Wars set, walk a couple of sound stages over, and then do some nuanced stuff on Annihilation. However he does it, it's just something he can do. He can do that sitting in the kitchen of his apartment and just switch it on, switch it off. There's no like, I need to walk around for 6 months in character, none of it. It's just there. It's somehow available to him. It is extraordinary, actually.
What's very interesting about Alex and about the way that he creates these films is that he is not only interested in making an interesting science fiction film with a lot of the elements that are familiar that we love about those kind of movies, but also exploring things about human nature and relationships that are quite painful, and using the backdrop of this kind of science fiction idea to explore those themes, I think is a really smart way of finding a way of looking at these things in an unexpected way.